Hey guys! So, some time ago when one of my turtles, Natasha, turned 1, I uploaded a video on the celebration but not on how I made her cake. So, a little late, but here is how I made the cake, which isn't really a cake, it's like jello in the shape of like a jumbo cupcake. Also, feel free to add, omit, or replace any of the ingredients except for the flavored gelatin. Duh. I'm using what I know my turtles like. My turtles are big meat lovers and don't really care for veggies, so I didn't really use veggies. But that's just what I use. Feel free to use whatever you want. So yeah, let's get started. I started out with some chicken breast. I boiled some water in this deep pot and placed in the chicken breast to cook it. And I apparently didn't take into consideration that the water level would rise. Oops. So here I am just taking some water out and then placed the lid on. I then did the same thing with some ground beef, and yeah, this happened. I sometimes give my cats raw beef, so they are pretty used to eating it, and since this was just there in the counter, he thought it was for him. Silly cat. I did let him have some though. And here's both the chicken breast and the ground beef ready to use. I also saved the broth that they cooked in to use later on. I then placed some of the water to boil and cooked the veggies I was planning to use. This is cauliflower, and I also used broccoli, but you can use whatever you want. Just make sure that your turtle likes whatever you decide to use. I also used 1 can of tuna fish in water. And again, because I often give this to my cats, they thought it was for them. So I'm placing it on here to drain the water. And there's Nina, still trying to eat it. I just let her have what was left in the can there. So to really get the water out, I'm using this rubber spatula to squeeze it through. And don't you dare throw that tuna water out. It is packed with flavor and you will be using it later on in the recipe. For the whole cake, I used all 4 packs of the Knox unflavored gelatin that comes in 1 box. So to finish prepping the ingredients, here's what I did. I took the ground beef and crumbled it up like this. I also shredded with my hands the chicken breast like this, but I decided it was still too big and chunky to my liking. So I put it through the food processor till it looked like this. But you don't have to. I'm just a bit of an overachiever, really. I left some of the shredded chicken as it was to have variation in textures. I also put both the broccoli and cauliflower through the processor. So returning to the broth, I placed it in the fridge so that the fat from the chicken and beef would solidify into this hard, compact mass, which made it really easy to scoop out with a spoon. I then divided the broth into these 2 containers, and then I added some boiling water to both. Each container holds about 4 cups of liquid, so I'm using about 8 cups of liquid total for this. I also added in that tuna water from earlier, about equal parts to both sides. Then I gave both containers a good stir to mix the broth, the boiling water, and the tuna water. And you can see here how hot this really is. So I'm using 4 packs of unflavored gelatin and 8 cups of liquid, so about 2 cups of liquid per pack of gelatin. And even then, this cake wasn't like super firm, so I definitely recommend you guys use more unflavored gelatin and or less liquid. It would make feeding this to your turtles less messy. So after a good stir and once the powder is completely dissolved, it's ready to go. Here's all the ingredients conveniently laid out and ready to use. So I'm using this jumbo cupcake mold, but you can use any container. It doesn't even have to be a cake mold. You could probably even use like a deep bowl and that would be just fine. I lightly greased it with some oils so it would be easier to unmold later on. And it looks like we're all set to put everything together now. So I started by scooping some of the liquid to the bottom of the mold. And then I added some shredded chicken. I then covered it up with some more of the liquid. On the other side, I added some of the processed chicken, a pretty good thick layer of it. And then I covered it up with the liquid. I then placed this in the freezer for 10 minutes so it sets, and then you can add the next layer without mixing the first layer in. And here it is after the 10 minutes. The next layer that I laid on was a broccoli layer. I made it nice and thick. On the other side, I did a layer of cauliflower. And again, I added enough of the liquid to both sides to cover up the layers of broccoli and cauliflower. Then back into the freezer it went for 10 minutes so the new layer can set before adding more layers on top. And look who made another appearance. Like, oh my god. This time he was after the shredded chicken breast. I swear, cats are so nosy and demanding. I ended up putting some strips of the chicken breast into his food. It's my fault really, they are the way they are. On the next layer, I used tuna fish. On the other half, I returned to the tiny pieces of chicken breast. And again, I added enough liquid to cover up the dry ingredients. The rest of this is pretty much the same thing. I'm just layering on different dry ingredients and covering up the dry ingredients with the liquid, along with freezing for 10 minutes after every layer. There's really no point of me repeating the same thing for like every layer, is there? You might have noticed I'm using quite a few animal meats. That's because this is a special treat for my turtles. They are meat lovers, like I mentioned, and I'm spoiling them with this. So I don't recommend you make this for your turtles too often. You can make some gel food with lots of leafy greens mixed in, and fish or other types of seafood. There's plenty of recipes out there and that's like a lot healthier. So yeah. After I was done, I had lots of the ingredients left over, so I just placed them all in this along with the leftover liquid, and I ended up with a solid sheet version of the cake, which I just cut up into squares, and my turtles really like those as well. So I refrigerated the cake overnight in the fridge, not the freezer, and the next day I really messed up while I was demolding it. So if you dip the mold in some warm water, Jello comes out pretty easily and perfectly. But I used very hot water, and my biggest mistake was I did the mold but I left it submerged for like 15 seconds. And you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to just dip it and then immediately pull it out. So anyways, it caused the gelatin to melt, which made the whole thing very runny, and it lost its shape a bit, and just don't make my mistake. I refrigerated for like 30 minutes, both of the pieces already demolded, which did firm them up again, but you know, like they did kind of lose their shape a bit. But I was able to pick up the top part of the jumbo cupcake and place it over the base, and ta-da! Here's the end result. I messed up a bit, but I still think it came out looking pretty good. But this isn't about the appearance, it's about the taste. So I made this for Natasha to celebrate her first birthday, but of course the other turtles joined in on the feast. This is just a few clips, but if you want to see the full celebration, you can click on this video. Natasha and I even made a music video, so definitely go watch it. Here's a sneak peek, but if you click on the box, a new tab will open with the video, and if you're a mobile user, I'll go ahead and add the link to the video in the description. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys make this for your turtles. If you do, definitely let me know. Take pictures, take videos, send them to me on Instagram, on Facebook, on email. There's lots of ways you guys can reach out to me. All the links are in the descriptions. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Have a good day or a good night, and I love you guys. Bye!